everyone and welcome our YouTube channel. We have an exclusive interview with Stephanie Williams, who is former Secretary General Special Representative of United Nations in Libya. أهلا وسهلا Stephanie, thank you very much for joining us.
Ahlan, ahlan. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you very much. If you want, we can start the political situation in Libya because it is a little bit confused for us, and I didn't remember any political actor who is supported by Egypt and the United Arab Emirates in the same time, and the unity government is a different actor. Could you explain this math for us? Who is who in Libya and who is the component of unity government?
Okay, yes. Well, first of all, thank you very much. And as I describe in my book, which I think you will also give reference to at the end of this program, Libya Since Qaddafi, I go through all of the major actors and the political stalemates that Libya still finds itself in. So let's start, of course, at the national level with bodies that were elected many years ago. Mm-hmm. The first body it's called the Higher State Council. It was elected as the General National Congress in 2012. So that's 14 years ago. It was repurposed in 2014, 2015 under the Libyan political agreement as the High State Council, and it serves as a consultative body. The other national elected body is the House of Representatives, the HOR, which was elected, or the parliament. It's a legislative body, and it was elected in 2014. That's 12 years ago. So that was the last time that Libya experienced a national elections. Then you go to the Presidential Council, which is located in Tripoli. It's a 3-member presidential council, each individual representing Libya's 3 historic regions, west, east, south, roughly. And they were the product of the mediation that I ran in 2020 and 2021. And then you have a UN-recognized government in Tripoli, the Government of National Unity. That's UN-recognized. That's been in place since 2021. And then you have a parallel government located in Benghazi. And that was formed through the parliament, and we can get into, but it's not UN recognized. So it's sort of a body that sits out there in Benghazi. So you have this large sort of political class, national political class, a national ruling class, and that includes political actors, it includes economic actors, it includes military actors. But what they have in common is they have no interest in changing the status quo. So keeping things as they are is essentially their goal. And you ask why, despite the fact that the Libyan people have asked for elections, they still want elections. It's because these political ruling class actors benefit from their positions. It's patronage, it's special status. It's just that they love being, as they say, in their chairs, and they don't want to leave their chairs. So unfortunately, this stalemate persists in Libya because and it's mostly men, let's just be honest, these guys have a zero-sum attitude towards politics. And it is also the case that Libya, in 42 years of rule by Qaddafi, there was no political life in the country. So they are sort of somewhat new to this experiment in representative government.
Mm-hmm. Okay, okay. Thank you very much. And we defined Libya is a divided society and the collapsed state, failed state. And in the literature, if there is no power in the country, the international society and international organizations has more responsibility about this country. Could you explain a little bit in this process, what's the role of United Nations?
So the United Nations support mission in Libya was formed in 2011, shortly before Mr. Qaddafi was killed in October of that year. It was formed and authorized and approved by the Security Council to help the Libyans in this transition period from the end of the 42 years of Mr. Qaddafi to move forward towards, a government and a society and a country that represented all of its people. So the first time the United Nations entered the country was in the form of the support mission was in September of 2011, and it has played. For instance, at that time, it helped the Libyans to hold those 2012 elections through the electoral support department in the mission. Then it sort of transitioned more into a mediation role, particularly with the outbreak of the first Libyan post-Qaddafi civil war in 2014. That led to the Libyan political agreement, which established the Government of National Accord, which lasted between 2016 and 2021. So you could say that the United Nations has had really two roles in the country. One is support for, and this is all directed by and approved by the UN Security Council, support for the UN recognized government, which sits in Tripoli, and then a role as a mediator, so that when there's this division or disagreement on the direction of the country, the United Nations steps in to help bring the Libyans together to forge a Libyan solution to this fragmentation of the country. In addition, of course, there's a whole range of UN humanitarian agencies that sit on what we call the UN country team, and this is all under the supervision of the UN special representative in the country. So you have everything from the Refugees Agency to the International Organization for Migration to the World Food Program, the World Health Organization, UNICEF is also present, and I'm sure that there are more that I've failed to mention. But so it's a fairly sizable UN mission. It is the political mission as opposed to your classic sort of peacekeeping mission, which you found in places like, you have one in Lebanon, you have a peacekeeping mission, and then you have a variety of peacekeeping missions, mostly in the African continent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. The unity government was established in 2021, right? And
Yes.
until now, we can't say any election in Libya. What's the problem in this situation? And do you see an election in the near future in Libya?
Well, I certainly hope that there's going to be an election in the near future in Libya. Whether that will take place, I think depends largely on that ruling class that I referred to at the beginning of our conversation. So yes, the political process that I ran had a roadmap which designated this was a date that was selected Libyans who were part of that dialogue of December 24th, 2021 for national elections to be held. There were a couple of problems that occurred between the formation of that government and then the failure of those elections. One, of course, was that the legislation it wasn't really passed, it was more decreed by the head of parliament, really set up failure because it just paved the way for all kinds of people who were around whom there was not consensus to run for the presidency of the country. One of them was the son of the late leader, Saif al-Islam, who's wanted at the ICC for war crimes, and who is in hiding in the country. Another one was General Haftar, who is still present in eastern Libya, and who had launched an attack on Tripoli in 2019. So he was obviously also viewed with a lot of fear and suspicion by a large portion of the population. And then the last person who was sort of green-lighted to run in those elections was Mr. Dbeibeh, who's the prime minister of the UN-recognized government in Tripoli. And he had actually taken a pledge, both in writing and orally, before the UN political dialogue that selected his government and his presidency council, that he would not run for national elections. And this was the basis upon which he was selected. So he violated his pledge. And so he was also became quite a controversial character. So because you had this very lax legislation, which was not consensually agreed, that sort of set the system, the whole thing, up for failure. And then, of course, and this continues, I think, till today, holding national elections, especially for the presidency, would mean that candidates would have to be able to travel all over the country to campaign, correct? Well, that's really still not the case, because there's a tenuous security environment, because there are actors like Mr. Haftar who would not allow other candidates to campaign in eastern Libya, where he holds sway. And then, of course, the security situation in Tripoli, as well as in parts of the south, continues to be quite tenuous. So, I mean, I think these are factors that have to be taken into account when discussing the viability of national elections in Libya. And that's why it's so important that the whole process and the dialogue process continues, because it is still the case that the majority of Libyans want national elections. They want to be able to democratically elect their leaders. And I think that's an entirely legitimate desire that has been honored by the United Nations, who's constantly pushed for this. But it is ignored essentially by their ruling class.
Yeah. There are many political actors in Libya, but when it comes to Middle East, there is another reality, unfortunately. The military group, armed group, violent non-state actors, stuff like that. And there is a IS reality in the region. And the IS killed United States soldier just a few days ago in Syria, and there is a terrorist attack in Austria. Especially the Syria area, the international community is so sensitive about IS. And can we say the same thing about Libya? What do you think about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, I think most actors in the international community, the major countries, are very sensitive to the possibility of Islamic State forming a threat, as it did in Libya, as you know, in 2016, where the Islamic State occupied the central coastal city of Sirte. And it was thanks to the cooperation of the then UN-recognized government under Prime Minister Siraj and the actions of the United States and the United Kingdom that they were pushed out, they were defeated in Sirte. And then when I was in Libya, particularly in 2018 and into 2019, Islamic State continued to conduct attacks in Tripoli. They hit the biggest attack was the High National Elections Commission, where a significant number of their employees were killed. But the National Oil Corporation was also attacked, as well as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And then you saw, IS retreat a bit, but it still continues to pose, I think, a threat in any area where, you have tenuous security situation, where you don't have control of borders, where you have trafficking, as you see in Libya, of weapons, of drugs, of people, of fuel, where you have this kind of informal underground economy. This is all sort of fertile ground for non-state actors.
Mhm, mhm. In the Middle East is going through very historical times now, and after Hamas attacks, the balance of the balance is power of balance is changing in the region, and we can add it the war between Israel and Iran, and moreover there is a new normal within speech mark in Syria. Could you evaluate this situation, the general situation of the Middle East, how this situation will be affected in Libya, and what is your idea about it?
Well, I would just say, personally, I did work on the Syria account when I was a U.S. diplomat, first in the office that oversaw Syria policy, and that was between 2005 and 2007. And then I served as the U.S. envoy to the Syrian opposition for a while in 2017 before I moved over to the Libya files. So I was quite aware of the brutality and the abuses that were committed by the Assad regime. And so to see this huge turnaround in Syria, and really as a result of the actions of the Syrian people, and for Syria to have this opportunity, for many people to come back, for them to rebuild their country, I think was something that nobody could really expect.
Mhm,
So, and I think that speaks to the importance of the agency of the citizens
mhm,
and the determination of the citizens to turn their country around. And so I would hope that a similar sort of determination, fortitude, you could see in Libya. I mean, Libya has, so kind of thinking internationally, regionally, Libya is not a priority. Okay, and this is a problem because there are so many other fires really that need to be put out here and there in the Middle East. And there are many countries that deal with the Libya issue through only a certain prism. And I talk about this in the book and how this made the job of the United Nations quite difficult. So for the United States, and perhaps you could say for the United Kingdom, Libya is viewed through the lens of counterterrorism.
mhm,
And that requires countries to really deal with some of these armed group actors who have no interest in what needs to be an institution and state building project. For countries in Southern Europe, it's through the counter-migration lens,
mhm,
okay? And then countries like, Turkey, which came in on the side of the UN-recognized government in 2019, extracted certain agreements out of that government in order to support them. And that was a maritime agreement, which continues to generate a lot of controversy, as we've seen with this back and forth between the Libyan authorities and the government of Greece, for instance, who are opposed to that agreement, but also a whole military agreement. And so what you need, and this is what we did and tried to do in the Berlin process that we built in 2019 and 2020, and which continues to sort of be the international architecture for the work of the UN mission, is to get all of those quarreling international actors around the table and to agree to a minimum degree of cooperation to help the Libyans come together, to help the Libyans to kind of forge their way forward. And that, of course, in addition to, you could say, the military stalemate that occurred after the intervention of Turkey in 2020 and pushed Mr. Haftar's forces back to really central and eastern Libya, allowed us then to focus on the Libyans, on the tracks that we built, and on completing the ceasefire negotiations, which were signed in the agreement that I mediated was signed in October of 2020. And that nationwide agreement still holds. There's, of course, violence here and there, but that nationwide agreement holds, and the Joint Military Commission continues to meet. And so that's the kind of, so I would hope that despite everything else that's going on in the region, that there can be, kind of some international consensus and regional consensus, because, as you noted, you still have external threats in Libya, like the Islamic State, to really help the Libyans to build the bridges that they need to recapture their sovereignty.
Yeah. I would like to ask before finishing our conversation, what is the worst and the best case scenario in Libya? Because everything can be changed very sharply in the Middle East. And what is your message in Libya's society and international community about Libya?
Well, I'm an optimist. I'm always an optimist, and I'm an optimist on Libya because I've had terrific interactions with a range of really mostly young Libyans who I think have a very promising sort of vision for their country. And so and the youth composes the majority of the population. So they really need to be part of this dialogue and conversation. And they are. In the current UN dialogue, the youth and women are very well represented, which I think is a good sign. Mm-hmm. And I hope that they, can convince their elders, as I used to call them, the dinosaurs, that it's time to really kind of turn responsibility over to another generation. And I don't buy into, Libya is going to just fracture into two pieces. You're going to have, a country in the east and a country in the west. And that's because Libyans are so intertwined. It's not easy just to carve the country in half because of their history, because of the fact that there's so much intermarriage, and that populations have moved back and forth between these great cities of Tripoli and Misrata and Benghazi and Derna, throughout the history of the country. So I think it's very facile just to say, they'll just split into two. So I think the challenge is to also, to work on national reconciliation. I think what does concern me is a repeat of what we saw in 2019, where one very strong party just basically decides that they want to take matters into their own hands. And that was a devastating war. It destroyed a lot of, particularly the suburbs of Tripoli in the south. It did a lot of damage, and it created huge displacement in the country. So I really hope that all steps can be taken to dissuade any actors from such a decision in the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Stephanie, for that kind of opportunity for us. It was very fruitful program for me, and I would like to announce your books for our onlookers, because I think it is very excellent book in this area. I will share the link in the description.
Thank you.
Your books. Its name is Libya Since Qaddafi: Chaos and the Search for Peace. I'm strongly recommendation to it, and I will read it immediately. And thank you very much for everything. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
Thank you. It was great to join you, and best of luck with all of your endeavors. I think what you're doing is very important, and it's good to see.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right.
Okay, don't forget subscribe our channel and keep watching us. Bye for now.